Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're discussing the works of the legendary author behind many beloved children's books that were later turned into films, Roald Dahl.
In his lifetime, Dahl wrote 19 novels, 3 poems, 12 scripts, and 9 nonfiction books. Today we're looking at a couple of movies that were made based off his children's books: James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and the BFG.
Yep. So I guess you want to start off with James and the Giant Peach?
That's the one you first became familiar with him with.
Yeah.
And you watched like a million times.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because I remember I had it on tape, and I don't know what happened to it, and I would just play it over and over and over, like I did with a lot of movies.
Yes, and then when it ran out on tape and tore up, then we got it on DVD.
And it never ended. So, you remember watching this movie, of course, right? As much as we played it,
yeah. Every time you watched it, of course, I was watching with you. And it was a wonderful story. Great animation. And it kept your attention.
Mm-hmm.
It kept your attention.
And it's funny because I had never read the book at the time. Now, years later, I finally read it, and it's like, wow, they really did keep a lot of stuff from the book to the movie. It even has songs in there, because I'm like, why do they have... Because you think, like, okay, Disney, Disney had the rights to do some of the stories. And when we get to it, it's like, wait, why are they singing all these songs? And I read the book, like, oh, they were supposed to be in here. They already had songs within it already.
Right. Now, the thing for me is, I always wondered, and I know you don't remember, but what got your attention so much and kept it that you would sit through that entire movie and wanted to see it every day? And I know that it was part live action and part animation. Mm-hmm. But I wonder what about it really captures the attention of smaller children. Because it was a great story. Mm-hmm. But, of course, if it were me, I wouldn't have watched it a million times.
Right. So I think it was, like you said, the story, the whole story, they kept true to the book. Everything that happened in the book that happened in the movie.
But you were really little.
Yeah.
So there's no way you would know
about
keeping true
but
to the book.
just by watching the movie, even though I never read it at the time, it was just a really fun movie. It sort of reminded me of... now it reminds me of Nightmare Before Christmas with the style of its animation. Mm-hmm. But I just liked it. It was really, really fun. Mm-hmm. There was never anything where you said, okay, you can't watch this part, you can't watch this movie, you have to be careful. It was never anything about that. And it was just a really creative and fun movie. It was really extravagant. They went to all these different places that are like, okay, how do these places exist on Earth? You think about it now, like, wait a minute, how does this thing, that doesn't exist? Like, wait a minute, how did they get pirate ships in Antarctica? And they just had all sorts of fun things happening. And then, of course, the music was pretty good, too.
Okay, so tell them a quick synopsis about the movie.
Okay, the boy named James, whose parents, I guess it's just presumed that they died, but in here it said they got eaten by some giant rhinoceros cloud thing. I was already telling there, people nowadays are like, what? That doesn't make sense, but I guess that was his way of interpreting it without it being graphic or anything. He was sent to live with his aunts, who were really, really wicked, and had him just doing all the work, all the chores, and lived on this really dull, wicked mountain. And usually having a lot of the stories where the kids were always like mistreated, and then would find something that would make them happy or get them to a better life. And then here, this guy who's, I think it's supposed to be a magician. He tells them to put all these ingredients in a paper lantern, and all he wishes come true. And then somehow a little glowworm went inside a peach, and it grew to a giant size. And then the aunts used it for... I guess publicity, let people pay to see, like one of those eighth wonder of the world things. And then
Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Right. And when the boy went inside the peach, he saw there were all these bugs that had gotten in there, but they became anthropomorphized after they went in. They had a worm, a centipede, a cricket, spider, ladybug, but they didn't look grotesque or anything. They just looked animated. And when he went inside it, he went from live action to animated. And they asked him where he always wanted to go to escape from them, and they were going to New York City.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, everything that happened, it was just really, really fun. There was everything in there that was unrealistic, or seemed like that's stupid, or like that doesn't really make sense. It never felt like this was odd or this is a strange movie, because now some people could probably consider it like a movie, or it's just so
Probably
baffling.
more now maybe considered artsy.
Maybe.
Type of movie.
Yeah, because nowadays, except for Roald Dahl, all his stories were really imaginative. And it'll always have usually a theme of a kid who didn't have much or was mistreated, and they'll get a better life by the end of the story.
And it was different from anything you've ever seen. His stories are absolutely unique. Is this his first book? Is this the first book that he wrote?
The first one was actually Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And I only learned that because I actually read the book where he had about his life, and some things that happened to him in his life he adapted into stories. Like he was a chocolate taster for at one point, which adapted for that movie and so forth.
Okay. Well, did you want to move on to Charlie and Chocolate Factory since you brought it up?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, and this was done not once but twice. Once in I think it was the 70s, late 60s or early 70s, with Gene Wilder as the chocolate factory owner. Then it was done a second time in the 2000s with Johnny Depp in the same role. And then it was also done as a Tom and Jerry movie, where it's copied scene for scene in the animation, of course, with Tom and Jerry.
Right. And, okay, might as well go in order. For the original, finally saw the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. At the time, only time I had seen it was when they did the Johnny Depp one. That was done by Tim Burton. First one, finally saw that, and saw that it was a kind of a different tone because it was kind of peaceful, and it was imaginative, and all the little songs. Of course, they had the bad little kids that got what they deserved, and it's funny because Willy Wonka didn't care when something happened to them because they were always messing with his stuff. Like, please don't touch it, and they would mess with it.
And you think about it when it was made. Again, this story was very different. It was a standout movie. But I think, thinking back to when you hear about the 70s and you hear about how the lifestyle was, that movie probably fit in. It probably didn't even feel strange or seem weird to people during that time. But, this was Gene Wilder's role that made him a household name and a legend. And he'll be forever connected with this movie. And
he also did the screenwriting for it, too.
That's a nice fun fact. I did not know. Okay, so then we move forward to the Johnny Depp version, which I like. I did like, as you mentioned, it was a different feel, but I did like the way that it was done by Tim Burton.
And, Tim Burton, if you've seen Nightmare Before Christmas and some of his other works, he likes to take things on the creepy side, but still make it where kids can watch it. And that's kind of went for there. The story's still the same, where the boy who finds a golden ticket in a chocolate bar and he wins a tour of the factory. And it's same as the book and same as the original movie. But the tone, like I said, is different. Of course, the kids were updated a little bit. Still same names, still same characteristics, but they were for modern times.
And this is where we became introduced to Freddie Highmore, who went on to do other movies. He went on to do Psycho, the TV series on cable, and now he's on the show The Good Doctor. And he was a fantastic actor then. I could see that he was a really brilliant actor as a child, and that talent has just developed and grown. So it was a great way for us. And you were surprised when I said, "That's Freddie Highmore. That's The Good Doctor." And you were like, "What? That's The Good Doctor?"
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, yeah.
And the great thing I think for this adaptation is still stay true to the concept, just with the Tim Burton twist, and it still had the concept, so let the plot, so let the Oompa Loompas go Oompa Loompa Doobity Doo. They still had all that. They may have changed like one or two songs, and that was it. And in this one, they actually added in a slightly shorter story where they did a sequel in the book called The Glass Elevator, and they actually threw that in near the end of this remake. And the one thing I remember, there were people that liked it and didn't like it. It wasn't like skyrocket popularity, but it was, it was still iconic, but it wasn't hated either. It was sort of a weird mix. Some found it very strange, but it's Tim Burton. And Johnny Depp, some felt he wasn't all that great. And
some of them didn't also like the makeup because he had on the prosthetic teeth, the haircut, and he was painted pale. But I'm like, who cares? It was how he interpreted the character and his performance and Burton's take on it. And for me, I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved the original, and I loved the Burton version.
So getting to the final one that's recent was dedicated to Gene Wilder. They did Tom and Jerry and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it's a lot of ants for a title. That's like that's a book title in itself, and it's literally the exact same thing as the Willy Wonka movie, only they're going by the original, and Tom and Jerry are just in it. There's not really much that's different. They still sing the songs. The only difference would be is that they added two extra characters that are from the Tom and Jerry universe.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, besides them, they had the dog and the mouse, and they made the bad guy German for some reason. And during the songs, they would cut to Tom and Jerry, and it's like, I can't experience what you want me to experience because you're focusing on mayhem. It said, because I want this miracle of walking to be shown with chaos and destruction. and
it wasn't cutesied up either, because this one particular scene, we're in this boat, and you were saying they kept that scene in, they kept the curse word hell, and you couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Like, what about small kids watching this? Oh my God.
Yeah, because there was a scene they kept in all three movies where they went through this tunnel. And I guess it was supposed to be delving in your fears. We don't know what that was. In every movie, it was always a mystery of why that thing was in the factory. And it would kind of like be like a nightmare feel, and it'll build up fear as you get further in. And he would live on to recite this poem, and it was really creepy. And in the Tom and Jerry one, they had the mouse do it. And they couldn't have the graphic imagery like the chicken head being cut off or anything. They just had like silly things. But it was still pretty freaky, even more freakier than the original because it was animated, and to this day you never know why was the scene kept in all three movies.
And then a favorite part of yours are some of the expressions that appear on the characters' faces.
Yeah,
when you laugh.
Yeah, because they said there's a lot of effort in the drawings. They're just, some of them look rushed and they look goofy or look like there's an error and they never went and fixed it. And the one thing I remember they did do, they combined both versions of Willy Wonka. They had him dressed like the Gene Wilder, but he looked like Johnny Depp without the white makeup.
Right.
And that's pretty much for all three versions. I liked the first two. The third one was kind of weird because you could just watch the first one, honestly, without the animation. It was a good effort, good tribute to him, but I think you just watch the other two and it's just as fine, or read the book. So.
And I think this is definitely a movie that is iconic, and it'll go on for decades still being watched and loved. I think it's to me, I think it's going to end up in the same category as The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
It's that type of movie where it was off-kilter, different, great story, memorable, fleshed out characters, and it will stay relevant for a very long time.
Yes,
so.
it will, because people still reference it. They even got lottery tickets dedicated to that thing.
Yes.
The Willy Wonka lottery ticket. I was like, really?
So, and I guess we'll move on now to the fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes, and that was made quite a while ago. And that
by George Clooney.
Yes, he was Mr. Fox, and Mr. Fox never had a first name. He was just Mr. Fox, Mr. Badger. They never really had play on word names or regular names. They were just Mr. Animal, Mr. Mrs. This, and that was it. I guess that kept it simple.
And you were the one who wanted to see this. I really didn't know much about it. I knew, of course, who Roald Dahl was, but I didn't know about this movie. And I ended up buying it. And at first I was kind of like, but I was so pleasantly surprised.
Right.
It was an excellent movie. I really loved it. It was nothing like I expected. And he's just had this gift for telling stories in such a different, fantastic way that would resonate with kids and adults alike. So tell us more about how you came to learn about this movie. Have you read the book? And why you thought it'd be great to see.
Okay, so I had to remember I didn't read these books till years later, and just recently did I read some of these books, and it's amazing now. Even if you don't read the books, you're still engrossed in the story, and then you look back and they really didn't change that much. There's really nothing much different. Fantastic Mr. Fox is about the family of foxes, and the father of the group always goes out and gets food for them. But they have the three farmers who are constantly trying to, hunt them, or they are digging to build new landscapes there under their home, and they're trying to drive them out. So they fight back by stealing most of their food and supplies that they need in the book, and in the movie they just steal like whatever they can to that will hinder them from achieving their goal, because they have more machines in that movie, and it's a little slightly updated, kind of like almost one of those eco-friendly movies where the people try to build giant buildings on wildlife. It was kind of like that, but it wasn't so in your face.
Well, not
there really was a danger.
That's called
environmental
preservation.
Sorry, the environmental
preservation,
movie.
Right.
And that was pretty much the plot for that. And I really liked it. I remember seeing trailers for it, and I just really wanted to see it.
Was Meryl Streep Mrs. Fox?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was a really, really fun movie from the trailers I saw and the movie itself. And to this day, people still love this movie. I have not heard one person say, this was not a good movie, or this was meh. I never see that
perfect.
Online. And they've called I'm sorry, go ahead. They've called probably one of the best animated films ever made, or best adaptations ever.
Now, part of that might be because Meryl Streep was in it. But that being said, it was perfect from beginning to end, even having never read the books. And just say, I never heard of the book or the writer. I still think this movie was perfect from beginning to end. Again, it was something that resonated with you, even though you're not a fox or an animal. You resonated with the struggle. You resonated with what he was trying to do. You everything just made sense, and it was a wonderful story. And the way the animation was great too.
Right, and this wasn't done in 2D or CGI or anything. It was more almost like kind of like a stop motion feel, and it wasn't done in clay either, but they had like realistic fur and stuff, and it looked like they were people just moving the stuff around, but it never looked fake or stilted or moved too slow. It was pretty fast paced for stop motion, which is really impressive, because they don't do a lot when they do those type of animations.
Right.
And the voice cast was pretty good as well. Everyone was super funny. They still made sure to keep true to the book pretty much perfectly, even with the little updates in there and one or maybe two extra characters. They still kept true to the book, and I really love the movie. We even own it. We still own that movie.
Well, we own James and the Giant Peach. We own the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would probably recommend it to a lot of animation fans, no matter what they like, because it really is a great movie. One of the best adaptations of anything. And it's great for all ages. There's never anything in there that you're like, okay, kids can't see that, or is it trying to be grown up or anything. It's just pretty much how, like you said, something you can resonate with, and with kind of reminds you a tiny bit of Zootopia, and where they related to as you're stereotyping animals.
Reminded you of it because the book came first and the movie came first.
That is right.
Zootopia might have taken a few cues from this movie.
Right, and you can use that as a comparison, where Zootopia has the animals where, you're stereotyping them, you're putting them in this category. And when you think about Fantastic Mr. Fox, this is how they act, because that's just their nature. It has nothing to do with any subplot or subliminal thing. It's just that's just how they are, and it's that this is who they are. That's the animal they are. They can't help it.
And no matter what happens, he and Mrs. Fox are so calm, are so polite, are so well-mannered. Look at Mr. Fox.
Right. Even when they were mad,
yes.
they were pretty. Even when they were mad, they were pretty low key. They just most you did was slap him, and that was it. Okay.
So again, this was a great movie, and it's great for all ages, and definitely recommend it if you've never seen it.
Yeah, we should probably watch that soon too.
We should watch
it also really good to watch near Thanksgiving, because it was released then. So I suggest, if you haven't seen it yet, either watch it now and or watch it again in November.
Yeah, good idea. And now we move on to our last movie, The BFG.
Yeah. Now this was actually made twice, and I didn't know it. It was made in the 80s.
Well, we're speaking of the second one, but go ahead.
Right. It was made in the 80s in like a hand-drawn style. And then it was...
Which sells for like $3 on Amazon.
Yeah, because it's so obscure. It's like, wait a minute, that existed? Because you're thinking, this new one we saw from... last year, right? From last year, we thought it was the first one.
Right.
And this, once again, was made by Disney. And in this movie, there's this orphan girl who is taken by this giant, or they call BFG, stands for Big Friendly Giant. And usually giants are known for going in the middle of the night and taking people from their homes and eating them.
Crushing bones, eating the bread, Jack and the Beanstalk style.
Yeah, and he was the one giant that didn't want to eat humans. He ate these nasty looking vegetables instead of humans, and he would give them good dreams and take away bad dreams instead. He never wanted to hurt them. And then when she accidentally sees them at night, because they're not supposed to be seen, he takes her with him.
Right.
And it lives in this on a giant island where all the giants live, and he's the runt. So he looks big until you see his brothers, who are even bigger than him.
And meaner and crueler. And,
And for that one, they want to stop them from eating people. So she wanted to get a message to the Queen of England to tell them how to stop the giants and save the country.
I loved it. I hadn't read the book as you had. And I loved it. I had no knowledge, information, or anything about this movie. You just said, let's see it. You're going to love this movie. Right. And I did. The animation was great. And Disney, this was a home run for them. I mean, it was so different if you think. It's so different from Disney's normal movies. It doesn't fit any category or genre that Disney has. This is a standalone project for Disney.
That's right.
And from what you told me, they stuck to the book itself,
pretty much,
which is another Disney first or rarity, where they did not Disneyfy the movie,
right?
And whomever was responsible for making the decisions, directing and producing, wonderful job. This is one of the best productions Disney's ever done.
I think Steven Spielberg was behind this, actually.
Well, then
and then his best friend, who unfortunately passed away before she could see the movie, she helped him work on it because they wanted to see that story become a movie for a long time on theaters. So they're the ones behind this one.
Okay.
And the cast is pretty. They all play their roles very well. No one ever seemed out of place, or they were trying too hard. There was never anything wrong with the animation. And I remember the name now is Melissa Matheson, I think. Matheson, yeah.
And they had a cast of relative unknowns for us in the U.S. except for Bill Hader.
Right.
But they did an excellent job. I mean, sometimes that makes a difference when you're watching something of this caliber and this type of movie. It's sometimes best that you don't have a lot of well-known stars, because it brings more believability to the movie, and you're having a different experience. Rather, if you're watching big name stars do it, it doesn't have the same effect when it's this type of beautifully made, beautifully written, iconic, very different scenario type of movie.
Right. And two things in there were added in, but they didn't hinder the story or anything, which is great, because usually, Disney will change it to where, like, this isn't the same thing.
It's Disney-fied.
Right. They did two things a little differently from the book. One, they had it was revealed that the giant actually had another kid there at once, but got eaten at some point before he found this other kid, which I thought was a little strange, because that was never mentioned. She was the first one in the book. And the second thing was when he actually got to show her, like, where the dreams come from. It was all this really great animated place, and it was kind of like catching fireflies.
Right.
He would trap bad dreams and label them, and then he'd have good dreams and then put them out there for them to dream about and keep them from having nightmares. But one line they said that I was really shocking from the point is where for the nightmare it said, "You will not be forgiven for your action." Like, whoa, what kind of thing was that?
Right.
That was pretty dark, even for that movie.
Now tell me, the way that the giant spoke, he had this, really garbled way of speaking. Was that in the book, or was that okay?
Yes, it was definitely in there. It was really different. It was clear he didn't know English very well, and he was attempting to speak it better as the movie went on, and it would be like words for other words that would describe other things, and they were just really out there.
Right.
And it'd be like, what are you talking about? And then you finally see, like, oh, that's what he meant. And then the one thing I remember was snarch cumbers, and they were these really hideous looking plants, and he hated them, but he would eat them rather than eat the people. He would rather eat that. And
Snarch is another name for a nose.
Really? A snarch? Yeah, it was a snarch comer. Yeah, that explains it, because it looked like his nose. And then when they had him in England, they built all this stuff for him and had, like, tons and tons of food. It was real food.
Right.
And he was so happy it wasn't the vegetable anymore.
That was a wonderful part of the movie when he ended up meeting the Queen of England. And that was wonderful. I just smiled through that entire part. It was heartwarming. It was touching. It was fun. And you knew it was impossible, but it didn't matter. It was just one of the most fun parts of the movie.
Right, and I love that because he had all this really, this is actually good, this is so good, and it's like actual food, and everything else but that vegetable had to be good for him.
Right.
And yeah, I had to say it was just a really another fun imaginative movie. And I can tell you this, by the end, he speaks perfect English now, just like in the book. I can definitely tell you that. But yeah, I had to say this is one of Disney's best, and I had to say everybody who does these adaptations of his books really do keep faithful. There's not one movie for any company that has changed so much where you wonder if it's even the same origin. They all keep faithful, and Disney definitely did a good job, and shockingly kept it true to the book, even with the few minor changes.
Now, two things to me that stuck out. When I saw the giant and I saw a picture of Dahl elderly, they made the giant look like him.
Right.
And two, I wondered, do you know if he was able to experience any of the success that came with his stories being made into movies at all?
I think just a little. He was definitely a famous author. His books were very, very well known, so that much he did. He screen wrote the Willy Wonka, the Chocolate Factory movie, but beyond that, nothing else.
So you don't know if he got to experience any success?
Right, just for the books, yes, that is
not
pretty much it, but not the movie, except for like one movie, they liked it so much they put it into a movie, and that I think is as far as he saw.
Okay.
But yeah, nowadays, like pretty much everyone wants to do a Roald Dahl movie. Not all of them have been made.
Is it public domain now, or is it still under his copyright?
I think it's still copyright because different companies do it. It's not one company doing it over and over, and it's not several people doing the same story over and over, different names. You're seeing different people do different takes, but it's not rampant like the fairy tales where every time you turn around, someone's doing their version, someone's doing that version. They can just make it just like that because there's no copyright.
Right.
But from like I said, everyone who does it, even live action or animated, does a fantastic job. They never stray away from what the books were about. Not every book has been made into a movie yet, but they're getting pretty close because more of the well-known ones have been made already.
Awesome. Well, I've learned a lot about him from the movies, and then more from you telling me about them from the books you got from the library and read. And he was just an amazing author. I'm very glad that we're able to know more about him and his work from these movies, and it's great that his legacy lives on through the books you're able to read and through the movies that are being made of his work.
So if you haven't seen any of these movies, we definitely recommend them, all four of them. And if you have seen them, let us know what you think in the comments. Or if you've seen other movies that we haven't talked about in this podcast, like Matilda and others, go ahead and let us know in the comments. We love to read them.
Oh, I forgot about Matilda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was live action.
Right, and there was something else, too. Like I said, not every book has been made into a movie, but they're pretty much getting there because every time you turn around is some different one. So can't wait to see what they'll do next.
Absolutely. So, thank you for having us do this podcast.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I got to share all my fond memories with you all.
Yes.
So,
that's it.
Yep, I'm Oscar Entertainment.
And I'm Mama Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, giving